Hi, foreigner in the Philippines here. Just looking at the whole idea of sharing, Filipino style. Now, it's a difficult thing for foreigners to understand. This is a point at which it is difficult to understand this, because in the West, if someone comes to you and they need something, or if you have an abundance of something, then you look ahead and you say, I mean, I don't know, say it's 4 cans of baked beans. You got 4 cans of baked beans, and you know that you eat 1 can a week, and you buy in for the month, so you're going to eat 1 can of baked beans a week, so you buy 4 cans of baked beans with maybe 1 reserve, just in case you eat more than 1 can of baked beans in 1 week. So you're now covered, aren't you? That's your need, your family need. So someone comes to you, do you have a spare can of beans? And you say, well, actually, no, we don't. What we have is, we just have the, and then you explain, well, 4 cans of baked beans is what I've got, and we don't go shopping for another month, and we always eat 1 can of baked beans, and we just have that 1 spare. And you think about it and say, well, perhaps we could give them the spare can of beans. So you give what you can afford. Now, if this is the Philippines and you go out and you buy 5 cans of beans, when you bring the 5 cans of beans home, say your mother-in-law or your wife will look at this and, wow, we've got 5 cans of baked beans. You say, yes, but just a minute, speaking as a foreigner, we need 5 cans of baked beans. You know that I eat 1 can of baked beans every week, so what else can we do? That's what we need. That's for us. That's to make sure that we are okay. Totally against the Filipino way. What a Filipino sees, a visitor comes in and says, oh my gosh, you got 5 cans of baked beans, that's wonderful. The Filipino will take 1 can of beans and give it to her friend and say, here, why don't you have 1 of these cans of beans? And then if a brother or a sister comes in and says, my gosh, you got 4 cans of baked beans, isn't that great? You're rich. The woman will take 1 of the cans of baked beans, which we need, and she'll give it to her friend and say, here, why don't you have 1 of our cans of beans? Because we've got 4. And if her friend says, but what about you? You say, well, we'll manage, and we'll just get another can of beans. Anyway, we got enough to go on with, so we don't need 4 cans of baked beans today. We're not going to eat 4 cans of baked beans today. So that's what would happen. So the sharing would be done. And that's the Filipino way. They share. Now, so if you come home and you have got an abundance of stuff, you've shopped for 1 month, don't anticipate that that's going to last for a month, because it isn't. Because everyone has a certain level of what they need to have available so that they can feel safe. And this feeling safe is very important. Can they feel okay with that? Now, if you buy goods in for someone else, like for instance during our work of helping, we've tended to go out and buy a box of groceries. Now, I know, for instance, if we go out and we buy 2, if the person, we're not going back there for a month and they need milk, then we should buy milk. And my Westerner way of thinking is, well, certainly one one bag of milk is not going to work. It's powdered milk out here, so that's not going to work. So my foreigner way of thinking would be, one bag will be 2 weeks. We're not coming back for a month, therefore 2 bags. That's the Costco way of thinking, where you buy in great abundance and you are laden with all of the provisions that you need. Will it work here? I don't think so. See, because what will happen is that someone will come and they'll see this great abundance, and there will be a natural order of sharing. So if you're buying in for someone else, think ahead. Think sharing, because what will happen is that if there are 2 bags of milk, one of them will be given away. Now, it's not that I used to think at first when I encountered this was, well, the problem there is that they've been given it, so they think that we'll just come back and give them something else again. You know, like, what are we doing? We're supporting them here. You're coming up against something that is totally ingrained. It's a sense of Christian sharing, and this is the beauty in a culture, not a fault. In the Western idea, it would be a fault. Well, you better start thinking about your own family. Well, that won't work, because a Filipina thinks in a wider view of what family is. They've got family all around. And in a small community, especially where we live right now, this is a hilltop farming. In that hilltop farming community, you have a sense of belonging, a sense of integrated living that has to be honored. And when people are in need, they share what they have. If they have little, they probably share even more than if they have a lot. And what I've noticed actually is in the Filipinos who make it, the ones who suddenly get a really nice car, get a ~1,000,000 car, they are now much more successful, they're much more affluent, they're living in a nice home, they have all kinds of benefits. They are less likely to share what they have than those who have very, very little. Those who have very, very little share a greater sense of kinship with everyone around them than the ones who have a great abundance. And it seems that there's a threshold that people cross once they become very successful. And that's why, in my experience, it's very difficult for a poor man to have a good friendship with a rich man, because the rich man has crossed a threshold in a certain kind of behavior which involves sharing, because he damn well isn't going to share as much as when he used to have nothing. Great tragedy that, isn't it, in a way? But anyway, that's all on sharing. Of course, it's not all on sharing, because it's a vast subject and it goes through everything. Food, everything that you have. You know, if you're not using something, I had a pair of shoes which just were kind of difficult to get into, so I tended not to use them much. And my wife said, well, are you using those shoes? I said, yes, I am, occasionally, because if I said, no, I'm not, she'd give them away. Okay, so that's life in the Philippines. All right, so this is a foreigner in the Philippines. Bye for now.